And you are now live.
So this is Senate Appropriations, and we're continuing our work on the 23 budget adjustment. And we have Chair Lanford here from House Appropriations to walk us through the highlights of the budget adjustment as passed by the other body. Thank you for you probably have this, Stephanie? I do. Oh, okay. These are extra. All right.
Oh, yeah, Phil does that.
Oh, Phil does it. So welcome.
No,
Yeah. Thank you. For the record, Representative Diane Lanford, Chair of the House Appropriations Committee, and I thank this body for allowing me to come over and give you the highlights. I will not read to what my floor presentation was, or even close to that, because I don't think that that is really what you want
You
to
are
hear.
very perceptive, Madam Chair.
So I wrote down some bullet points, and I have passed out the highlight sheet that you have in front of you. But I think what on the very high level, of course, I think that you might want to know is that the House Appropriations made no changes whatsoever to the governor's recommend. These are and it's been fully funded all of what he wanted to bring forward. We did make changes and we made some additions, just like as things had continued to live as they entered our room with this budget, that the governor had ideas that were not all the way finished. We were able to take those ideas, or some of them, and flush them out with the help of other standing committees. And some things we kept alive, which is now passing on to you in the hopes that there's a possibility that something will develop. There was, so in the numbers piece of it, the House Appropriations put in an additional $91 million is the total over in general funds. $72 million of that is in housing, whether it's in including.
That's the 50 and the 21.
Correct. There you go. Thank you. And I think there was some wraparound services in there, but we're, general terms is about $72 million of it is in from the housing perspective, and $9 million of it was in the support for our organic small farmers that came before both the Senate and the House Agriculture Committee in a public hearing on that Thursday before we actually closed, seeking support, and we heard them and held it in reserve for a plan. So there are a couple things that we are hoping that the Senate will keep alive, or at least hand off, or not, depending on what can develop. And I'll just go into that. Some of what we had that was an idea, which was $3 million to help municipalities with their access to grants and funding assistance. That came to us as an idea that was not developed, was not quite ready for prime time. But because of the great work within the administration, and many people got together, House Commerce, House Government Ops, senators were involved as well, worked very hard to develop an amendment to the plan, so that came through in what we would consider in a more finished state. Of course, you'll review it for your own, from your own perspective on that, but at least that was something that came as an idea that was developed and finished to a good point before it left us. There are several things that are not finished that came to us, and that we're continuing to hand off to you, that we kept in reserve. These are not things that we wanted to say just keep it alive, because there's an opportunity potentially for it to succeed, which is there's a $9-point-something million that the governor had recommended for the youth treatment beds. In this case was a feasibility study that was just beginning to be looked at, that was not ready yet, and still is not ready. We did not feel, meaning House Appropriation and in turn the full House, did not feel that directing that to any named entity was a good idea, so we took the name off and left it pretty much as an investment for if, when X happens. Don't know if that's gonna happen. That money will then, if it's not used, will either fall to the bottom of the line or become something of a part of maybe the 24 budget. You don't know. Unfinished business. Everybody cares about it. Everybody recognizes that this is a big need, and we know the situation out on the ground in Vermont is that it is very, very tough to find a place to invest in there to make that happen. Wanted to keep that alive. Apologize if that creates any undue pressure on your part, but it's just keeping it alive for the next step. The other piece that we felt that was not in there because it did not have a plan yet was eliminating the emergency housing. Human Services looked at it and came up with a construct for 3 targeted populations to keep going until June instead of ending it in March. There was no information in the final hours that House Appropriations had the bill to understand who was being left out. We had no idea what and who was going to be impacted. So with that, we kept it alive and open, and then actually asked once again for a plan from the administration and from all of us as to what and how we want to move forward come June or July 1.
Yeah, that kind of, to be honest, it reopens some old, there has been a study and there was a very large group of stakeholders. So a lot of what you're asking to be done, in fact, was done. I guess the hardest part is people don't like the reality. At some point, the money's gone and how you want to, and the extent to which you can replace it. So that was a lot of stakeholders and I'm sure many members, because you've got so much turnover, some of that historical continuity is kind of hard to all of us remember. And then of course there's the 15 million that we did put in specifically for the quarter, and there's a plan for that. So I just want to, so there are no surprises. I think we need to just take stock in terms of all these different pieces and what's been done, the study that was done. And the one concern that was articulated as well is we don't have enough motel rooms. And so I know at the last minute, there was a desire to address vulnerable populations, and they are addressed, I mean, through our general assistance program. But if you do it first come, first serve, what our concern was and what we had testimony is that first come, first serve could be a single able-bodied adult gets the room and a mother with 2 kids. There's no room and is in her car. So I just want you to know that we're gonna be looking at that and all the different moving pieces that are impacting.
I think there's a great deal of room, Madam Chair, for improvement for where.
I don't need to put, you
No,
don't need to
we just
do that.
didn't
I
want to
just
close
wanted-
the door just yet. We know that the door is actually right now would need to close, and it was a statement even on the floor. This money is not lasting. This needs to unwind. And in 2021, there was in the big bill an ask, I think it was in the big bill, to ask for information or a plan on how to move forward. I think the members of my committee and on the floor were not comfortable with just saying no without any idea of what was the plan from going forward. What that plan might entail might not be pleasant for everybody, but it does need to be spelled out before people just say no. I read, I don't know if you saw this morning, which actually kind of goes into the feeling, I think, of where as information becomes available on that Thursday night, when you think about when you made a decision, what you had information for was very limited. And even in the time since we passed the bill, there's more and more information that makes a difference. In the Guardian, they just did an article on February 3rd. Did you see this? Vermont is the second highest homelessness rate in the nation.
I don't know how you could say that when we're housing everybody.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have home, they don't have they're homeless.
On a
They do
per-
have a roof.
So it depends on,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot depends on how you're defining homeless,
Homeless.
because
Yeah.
earlier in the pandemic, we were being complimented for the
Absolutely.
fact that we were housing everyone. And so I guess the distinction is what kind of housing you're getting.
Yeah. I think that would be, I think what they mean from that is that they're still homeless. We do have a shelter. We are and have been very good in Vermont, and we do have a lot to be proud of what we've been able to do and make sure that we respond to. So that is going to need to be continued to be developed and see where even in the 24 budget goes. So the problem, I don't need to, you know this better than I do, that the situation is crisis for people who are homeless, it's crisis for people who are trying to get into a home. We have a bit of a boondoggle out there when it comes to housing, which plays into the fact why we were extraordinarily supportive of making sure that we kept our foot on the gas of the Vermont Housing Conservation Board. June, they have, by this June, they will, I should say, when they meet again, they have 42 million left. When their board meets, they will have expended that. So I do not want, or it was our intent to not let that go unprimed, that pump. I need to keep them going. I'm sure you know that probably they're looking for or need is about 185 million.
Well, that's what
So when
they,
people say, why is it 50? And I say, because 185 is too much. But 50 will keep that foot on the gas for the developers to not walk away and get cold. That's why you see it in budget adjustment as its urgentness. And then, so the housing, the other thing was the support for the organic farmers coming a little bit late to the table through standing committees and hearing of the situation. I have to say that in the hallway conversation, I was not really comfortable with this at first, because I needed for the entities to come with a plan, maybe not a plan for the disbursement, which is what they need to do now, but a plan that this investment of taxpayers' dollars at the other end of this is got some sustainability. So I need to hear from them what is going to make tomorrow different. And I think the senator here probably knows better than I do that I heard that, all right, I don't know how much I can lean on it, but I was trusting in the fact that there are rules being promulgated right now at the federal level that when they're finished, they will be sufficiently supportive of the organic dairy industry. If there was a bill in the Congress, I would not be anywhere near as optimistic, but because it's in rules, I had a bit of a
and that
sense
has
to
to
give them
probably do
support.
with the insurance and
The rules are like this now, the big guys are taking right over, and they're not following.
but we have put money in for the insurance premium to do a subsidy.
That's for conventional dairy.
For-
Yeah, but I know, but my question is, are the rules they're talking about is to open it to other than conventional dairy? Is that what you're talking about?
That it includes organic,
Yeah,
but maybe not the same programs.
not the same.
It's a different program.
Yeah.
Yes, Rich.
Didn't we hear from, in testimony, that what they were talking about, $2 a hundredweight for organic? And your proposal would be 5.
Yes, because they're off by 9. Somebody had asked why they didn't ask for 9, but that was not the request that came to us. I heard at one point it was 10, and then it was 8, and then 9.2.
Well,
But that was, I think those are the big items. And if you'd like, I could walk you through some of the other ones that at least we funded in a different way, if
well,
you'd
you
like.
did, the letter did not talk about some of the other adjustments for the adult days. You put in some additional money there. And
And the judiciary, network
Yeah.
cabling, there's
yeah, we heard
1.5.
from them.
Lawn Residential Treatment Program 1.2, American Heart Association CPR training equipment 30,000, and to build a scale match for a grant that's 350,000.
And that was a time-sensitive issue, and that went through Congress.
The
as
other
well.
thing that I don't think that they found objection to, which also came to us late, which is not fully developed yet either, is $952,000 for Park Street properties in Rutland. That also made it towards, I was just actually surprised, you hear things pop up. There's Howard Center has a treatment facility in Rutland that's 3 buildings that they lease that has adult males with some severe behavioral issues that are there. They've been there, leased these buildings for 20 years.
No,
It's being sold, and April, forget the date, but April something is the date of right of first refusal to purchase it. So it came to us, and I do not know if it's a good building. I don't know if it's a good investment. But we included the dollars in there so that it can continue to be investigated with a somewhat of a plan for institutions and others. I think we need a little bit better than Representative Peter Fagan, who's now retired, running around the building 3 times and checking it out. I think before the state makes almost $1 million
I know
assisted
that
investment.
mental health,
Maybe
that's-
have it run
that's
through
one of
more
their
times.
priorities is to preserve that program.
Right.
And so I don't know how many individuals are served, but it sounds like
It has potential.
Is the institutions committee looking at that?
Yes, I did flag it to them as well. I didn't have objections to this. We do have a construct that's in the bill for who's, gonna look at it, get back to us.
well, it seems like that's more developed and
Yeah.
more to work on than
Yeah.
a feasibility study of what might happen or might not. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know that's a priority for Howard is to keep that building and keep that program operational, and considering the state of our mental health treatment capacity, it does seem that you would not want to jeopardize the continuation of the program.
Would the 1.2 buy the property, or is this just?
It's 952. There's purchasing, and then there's, I think, if I'm just trying to recall what I saw, there was some part of that is also a little bit of a maintenance piece. But we did get a breakdown from them on.
I think I have something here from Carrie Hathaway as well.
And mental health supported it. I was pleased I was glad to get that. We got that after we decided to put it in, or at least say, hold on to this money. You don't get this money until the language comes back. I think it's in April that says, this committee looks at it and says this is a good investment. Once we call it sometimes putting a fence around the dollars and they're not to use it.
Well, it does seem like, considering the kind of the inadequacy of what we have in place, to actually lose something that we have in place would be very serious. And so it's not exactly a new policy direction. It's how do we preserve what we've got. So-
And or the community, that was what gives me comfort, is that it's been in the community. It's not trying to break into the community. It's been in the community and served there for 20 years. So this is not new to Rutland, so I would not expect to see pushback from them.
So what's the price that's being asked for the building?
980
It is the 952 there,
or whatever, 952.
So there's a plan.
but it's
within
just a
the-
matter of getting someone to do an inspection and make sure it's valuable.
And there's language in there that I'm sure that you'll take a look at, but that was like the last days too. It may need, I'm sure your more seasoned eyes will refine that even better.
Well, who knows?
What was the date that you
It's like April, sometime in April, because right of first refusal is right around the end of April. So I think the date's April 1 or April 15th that they're to get back to us and make sure we can, that it's a good idea.
Well, on the surface, knowing what we know, how inadequate our treatment, I don't know how many individuals are served there, but to lose a facility with, it sounds like fairly high level population in terms of their the characteristics. So we'll take a vote. Yes.
Do you know what the current cost per year is for that building for Howard? We don't know that.
We had a handout that, these are the things that came to us. I can get you, I think your chair may have had that one pager of information.
Maybe.
I do have it open,
You do have it
and I'll
on?
send it,
Alright.
to make sure everybody has it, but
All
it's
right.
Thank you, sir.
$150,000 is the annual rent that they're paying now on the properties.
How much?
$150,000 is the annual rent that they're paying on the properties.
That's quite a bit of rent.
Yeah.
And been paying it for 20 years, yeah.
Where is
Although-
this in the
They're in
news?
worse shape than
It's
you
in
are.
Rutland.
Huh?
That was why.
They're in worse shape than you are.
Yeah.
You should have stopped paying rent.
Yeah.
It's in Rutland.
No, I know it's in Rutland. I meant which address?
It's,
The Park Street?
Park Street,
Yes.
purchase
Park
and
Street,
repair of Park
yes.
Street
We're
property.
probably familiar with the program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're basically section.
Right.
So I think knowing the characteristics of the population, preserving that facility it's not a policy change. It's an imperative to preserve the.
I don't want to have to
Capacity.
find a new place.
Sounds like you're writing a resolution.
Well, I'm just saying, there are certain things that we'd say need a little more attention, or we need to evaluate them in the context of 24. But I think Considering this program and the fact that it's in a community that has been there and for 20 years, so thank you for that additional input, Senator Sears. We'll move right along.
So I wanted to know, actually, it's a lot longer than 20 years.
Is it a lot longer than 20? So
And-
that is basically in a nutshell
Okay.
of additional investments and things that we.
So, we, will probably be, our goal is to hopefully finish this up maybe by Friday. Is that too ambitious? Yes.
Which Friday are you talking about?
Maybe early next
Madam
week.
Chair, we just started on FY24, so.
We're already working on 24 too.
Oh,
We've been
good.
taking budget adjustments and 24
Okay.
together.
We're gonna spin that up next Friday.
Yeah. Thought we would. Yeah, and the capital bill too,
There
that's
you
only
go.
54 million, so we probably could do
And then
that.
in 3 weeks, we're going home, so.
Yeah.
Oh, meeting week, yes.
So, other questions of the chair, now that we, around the BAA, obviously we'll be having more conversations. Well, this
I'm
is,
available to you anytime you would like.
well, you're always welcome, and this is very helpful. These sheets are to kind of highlight everything. Unless there are further questions, I'm gonna, you're our last of
Of the day.
last of the day.
Oh, goodness.
Wow, chairs needs to.
Yeah.
I thought for early.
What's your-
What else?
I told my, so at this point, I am going to,